Hello there, welcome back to my channel. Thank you so much for joining me. Today let's talk about all things Chanel Mini. Today let's create the ultimate guide for you if you're looking at purchasing a Chanel Mini, be that in the classic type, be that in the Chanel Mini reissue, in the Coco Crush. Let's look at lambskin versus caviar. Let's look at rectangle versus square and see which one of these bags would be best for you before you spend the very increased Chanel prices, following the price increases on one of these beauties. These are now real investments into your wardrobe. So if you're going to buy one of these, you need to make sure you get the right one. Now, we're going to have a look at all of those styles of the bags, what they fit, and I will try them on and show you mod shots. For reference, I am 5'1" and a UK size 12. One of the things you're going to have to decide upon whenever you look at buying one of these, if we start with the Chanel Classic Mini. Now, this is not classed as a classic flap, even though it has a very similar aesthetic as the classic flap. The classic flap has a double flap in the inside, whereas the Chanel Mini doesn't. It's a single flap. It is one open space on the inside. It has one slip pocket at the back here, and it has one zip pocket behind it. So it doesn't have the same layout as a classic flap. It doesn't have the double flap, doesn't have the lipstick pocket, but this is a mini bag, so you want to make the most of the space that you have in it. That being said, even though it's not classed as a classic flap, it looks very much like one, only it's about half the price of the classic flap now, which is this pink one over in the background. So if you're looking for the quintessentially Chanel look, a mini is a very good option to get it. Now, the mini has always been my favourite, regardless of the price. I think it's easier to use. I think the options you can get in the colours, in the fabrics, in the sequins. I like how it sits crossbody. I like how I can wear it easier. I like that the price point is a little bit easier, but regardless of that, the mini has always been my favourite. If you're looking at a mini classic flap, the first question that you will get to ask yourself is, do you want the rectangle or do you want the square? Now, all of my collection now is the mini rectangle. I used to have a square in this exact colour. I had a square that comes to about here, and the square was in the quilting, whereas this is in the chevron, and they were both in caviar. For me personally, I do not really like the square mini. I much prefer the rectangle version of the mini. Firstly, I think the chain length on the square is that little bit shorter. When it sat on me, it sat about here, and I felt the need to constantly be pushing the bag down, even though the chain doesn't extend, but I wanted it to sit lower. I thought it was a little bit high. Also, on me being 5'1" and a UK 12, I'm not the skinniest in the world. I thought the square version just looked that little bit out of proportion with my body size. I felt that I looked bigger, the bag looked smaller, and I didn't think it really worked. Now, I do have a smaller bag. If you look at the Gucci Super Mini in the background, it is smaller than the square mini, but because it's in a rectangle type shape, I think because it's spread out across the way, it just didn't look as small against my body as what the square mini did. So I actually sold the square mini on and bought this one, and I will not buy a square mini again. They just don't work for me. The rectangle is much preferred. When I was looking for this bag, which is one of my favourites because of the colour, I came across this bag a couple of times in the square option before the rectangle. Even though I was obsessed with finding this colour, I passed on the square because I know that it doesn't work for me. Now, if the only thing that was putting you off a square is the chain length, I did send the chain length, well, I sent the whole bag obviously, to leather surgeons on my black classic flap, and I got the chain extended, where they actually cut the chain open, add a section in, and I can now wear my classic flap comfortably crossbody. So if you prefer the square and the only difficulty for you is the chain length, that can be extended, but it does involve sending it to a third party, paying that cost, altering the actual chain and adding a section in to make it sit that little bit longer. The layout inside of the square and the rectangle is the same, only the rectangle is going to hold slightly more because you have this extra inch of length here, and you can fit a little bit more inside, but they are both mini bags. Quite often the squares can be a little bit easier to find than the rectangle, but I do think it's personal preference as to which one is best for you. If you have decided that a mini in the traditional style of mini is what's for you, and we will look at the other styles. The next question you will need to decide for yourself is whether or not you want to buy the bag in chevron, which is this, or you want to buy it in quilting, which is this version. Now, I think the quilting is probably more traditionally, quintessentially Chanel. I think this probably looks more traditionally Chanel, and certainly I love both of these. But my preferred option is the chevron. The chevron is my favourite. I love it. I just think it's that little bit more modern. I just personally am drawn to the shape of this and the style that little bit more. But I think they're both, obviously I have both. I have plenty of quilted bags. I think they're both stunning bags, and it's really personal preference as to which one you want to find. I would say though, with the price of these now, make the decision before you spend the money so as you get what you want, given these are now so expensive. Once you have decided between chevron and quilting, you're then going to look at whether or not you want to get the bag in caviar, which is this one, or in lambskin, which is this one. Now, if you want to buy a Chanel mini from the boutique, you will only be able to buy the bag in lambskin. Chanel stopped producing minis in the caviar, I think in and around 2018. I think this is 18B. I think this was one of the last seasons that Chanel produced minis in the caviar. So if you want to buy it from the boutique, you are looking at the lambskin. Let's chat about the lambskin. This is one of my absolute favourite bags. I absolutely adore this. It's one of my favourite colours. It's one of the favourite bags in my collection. The thing about lambskin is it takes colour very well. The colour saturates onto the lambskin very well. It creates a very deep, true colour, and I love that. Being a colour lover, I think it's just stunningly gorgeous. I also think the lambskin has a very luxurious look and feel. It's a smooth leather. It's squidgy, if that's the right word. It's soft. It feels luxurious. It feels like luxury. It's a beautiful leather. The caviar, in contrast, is a more durable leather, but you can see the little bobbling of the caviar. This one's quite a small caviar that gives it this look. What makes it that more durable takes away the look of the smoothness, I suppose, and I think the lambskin is probably my preferred look if you look at these two together, but this one is the one that I will use more. This is definitely more durable. There are a lot of videos out there telling you that lambskin is more durable than the reputation that it gets. All I can tell you is from my personal preference that I have both of these bags, lambskin, caviar. This is my favourite. This gets less wear. This has more marks of wear on it because of the lambskin, and the reason it gets less wear is because it's that much less durable than the caviar is. I don't need to worry about weather conditions in this one. I don't really need to worry so much about signs of wear, whereas in this one, which has been used less, there's more noticeable signs of wear in this one already. So I do think there's a difference in your bags. If you actually want to wear your bags, if they're going to be worn regularly, if you don't want to be babying them, if you don't want to worry about wearing them crossbody or about colour transfer, I do think the caviar is more durable and will show the signs of wear less than the lambskin. Can't get away with the beauty of the lambskin. I think it's stunning, but if you're looking at using them, I do think this is more durable. Now, that being said, if you want to buy a mini in the caviar, you're now going to be looking at the resale market because you can't get them in the boutique. And because you can't get them in the boutique, because they're very sought after and they're very durable, the price of these on the resale market is quite high, especially if it's in a colour that is quite popular, and you will probably pay more for a caviar mini on the resale market than you would pay for a lambskin one. But again, that durability just adds something to the bag if you want to be using it a lot. Now, when I say a lot, I'm fortunate enough to have quite a large handbag collection, so these bags are not getting used daily, but you can see signs of wear in this. This is the lambskin, and if you look on the Mona Lisa smile pocket at the back, and I don't know if the camera will pick it up, but across the edging up here at both sides, you will see signs of wear. There is leather rubbing off at both of these top edges down here, and there is corner wear on each of the back corners of this bag. As I say, I wear it. It's not worn every day, and I do look after it. You can see a big smudge of corner wear there on this corner as well. and on this one. Now this will not put me off this bag because I love this bag, but if you're buying one at these prices, you need to be aware that this happens. You will also see on the bottom nail marks, if I can get the light to catch them. You will see where my nails have, obviously I've grabbed the bag, and you'll see nail marks. You can see one down here along the border of the lambskin, and that will happen a lot more easily with lambskin than it will with caviar. You will also see some marks on the inside flap of mine, because again, I'm not overly careful. I just use the bag the way you use a bag, but you will see some marks, and you will see the marks of the chevron. If you look up here, you'll see where that sits closed across the bag, the chevron has imprinted in the leather. Now, to try and reduce that on your bags when you're storing them, you should keep them open, and you should put felt in here to protect that. Also, keeping them open means you're not putting pressure on it, which is causing the imprint, especially if you have the classic flap. But with lambskin, you're going to get small marks. Once you decide between the lambskin and the caviar, whether you're going through the boutique or you're going pre-loved, these will generally all come in the different hardwares. This one is silver, this one is light gold, and you will get them in the gold hardware as well, and that's a personal choice as to which hardware you want. For me, I probably prefer the golds and the champagne golds rather than the pure silver, but some bags, the silver I think looks better, or some bags they only come in the silver, but it is something to consider whenever you're looking at which of these bags giving the price. Now, for me, one of the best, oh, just dropped one on the floor, Gwenny, I love that. For me, one of the best things about the Chanel minis is the chain length. Now, chain length's very, very personal. But whenever you have a longer chain length like you do on this rectangle mini, it's a lot easier to fix that and change that to the setting you want it at. Even if this is not adjustable, which it isn't, it's not detachable, it's not adjustable. But there's ways to deal with that are a lot easier than if it's too short. If it's too short, I don't know how you're getting around that without sending it away and getting it cut open like I did. Whereas if it's too long, we can doctor that and we can make it fit. When I wear the Chanel rectangle mini crossbody, it sits on me here. I think for me personally, that is a perfect length. I don't ever really worry about it being too long. Sits here. The square sat about here, sat above my hip. This here. Now there will be slight variations season to season, but generally that's where the Chanel rectangle mini sits on me. The rectangle mini, as opposed to the reissue, which we will look at, only has 2 grommets. That means you can't do anything other than this without playing about with it a little bit. But what you can do, if you open the bag up, you can get the little clips off Amazon, or you can literally use a tie, an elastic band to tie it, or one of the Chanel ribbons if you want to make it look nice, and tie this together. You can tie it across the middle here, and you will have a length which is pretty perfect for wearing on your shoulder. If you want to get the little clips from Amazon, I have them on my large denim compressed Chanel bag. Gives you a lot more flexibility. You can just tie this a little tiny bit like this. If you want it slightly shorter, you can clip these in and it sits, or you can make it very, very short if you want to put the whole thing in. And I have done this before and used it as a clutch bag. I have brought all of this in, tied this together, tucked the chain down inside so as it's no longer there, and I've carried it like this, like a clutch bag. And I would do that quite often. I think these bags are stunning and can pass as evening bags, but if I don't want it on my shoulder, I just tuck the chain in and use the little tie and carry it like a clutch bag. One thing you should be aware of is that these can still get heavy. Even though these are mini bags, I was fooled and I thought that I would wear this all day, never feel it, wouldn't touch my shoulder, life would be great. It gets heavy. It's still a leather bag, and this chain is still a chain with leather through it. So even though it's a smaller version, if you have this filled with your stuff and wear this all day, you will feel this on your shoulder by the end of the day. Certainly it's not something that you don't need to worry about. I definitely have lighter bags because you do have to remember it's a full leather bag. The one thing I will say about the minis, and we're going to talk about the Coco Crush when we come to that, is I think personally they're very well made. Yes, I've seen some options now on shelves where you can see that they're crooked or they don't particularly line up, or this is crooked, but you don't buy those. If it's not perfect, you don't buy them, would be my advice. But when it comes to the actual leather, how sturdy the bag is, I know how much use mine get. I know how much I've worn these, I know how many suitcases they have been put in. I know what they have been through, and they're all pretty much perfect in their structure and in their condition. Yes, there's a little bit of wear in the lambskin, but how they're made has held up very, very well. Now let's take a look at what fits in these. It is a mini bag, so you're not getting the kitchen sink in, but I can certainly get what I need to carry in it. So if we start with my phone, which is an iPhone Pro, it's not the largest Max, but if you see in here, I could put the Max in. If I show you how it sits, there would be space to get the bigger version of the phone in there. So you're going to get your iPhone in. Then if I use the recto verso, because it's one of the bigger card holders from Louis Vuitton, to give you an idea, that fits in beside it. Then I have my 4-ring key holder, which has my keys in it, and it fits in there. And then if we go for a key clay, I can put that in there as well. And then I have my lipstick, which goes down the side, and everything fits in there. I have before just laid my sunglasses across this as well, and it does fit. You're going to put a bit of pressure on your sunglasses, but I've been able to do it. That is everything in there. I can feel that's getting heavy when you have all of that stuff in. You can see through this little gap here, this is empty of what's in there, and that's where your sunglasses would be sitting. I've done it. I'm not overly precious about them when I take them out. Some people might not want to, but for me it was easy. I did it, and that's what that looks like. I don't think it's overly stuffed, and that would be everything that I would certainly need to carry in a day. Moving on from the traditional mini, and hopefully if that's what you have decided you want, that will give you the information of the different options and things to consider when buying one. But another option you have is the mini reissue, and I personally love the mini reissue. I think this is a very, very fabulous bag. One of the key differences between the reissue and the classic mini, if we call it that, is the mini has the CC turn lock and will therefore look more noticeably Chanel, more quintessentially Chanel. And I have to be honest and say I have a lot more of the mini rectangle than I do the mini reissue. Part of that will be because they will bring out a lot more options in the mini rectangular on a season by season basis. You can see sequins and tweeds and things over here, and you won't always get the same options in the reissue. Although I do think the reissue is fab bag. This is the lock that was originally designed by Gabrielle Chanel. It was later changed to this CC. So this one, obviously not if you go for a version which has Chanel graffitied all over it, but these do come in some stunning plain leathers. If you had this in a plain leather, this is going to be a lot quieter or a lot less obviously Chanel with this turn lock. I think the reissue lock is one if you know, you know, whereas if somebody knows nothing about bags, they probably won't know what that is. The reissue, I think, is very, very slightly bigger. Now, I don't think it's so much bigger that it's going to make much difference to what you can fit in it. And I don't even know if it's really noticeably bigger. I just feel that I can fit very slightly more in it, that there's a little bit more space in it. Not a huge difference there. It looks exactly the same. Just from use, I feel it's very, very slightly bigger, that there's a bit more space. Maybe because the reissue comes, and I've had mine for a while, but it comes like this. So the reissue doesn't come as a perfectly square sitting bag like this one does at the bottom. This comes kind of poking out like this. And it's only through time that that becomes a more square bag. I don't know if that makes it a bit more space in it. It just feels slightly bigger for me. It has the exact same layout in that you have one open space, you have one flat pocket at the back, and you have a zip pocket behind that. Your fitting, and I will show you what fits in this, but practically the same. Again, if we start with the iPhone and then we put the recto verso in, and then we put my 4-ring key in, and then we put the key clay, and we put the lipstick down here. This is all of that in, and I just think there's slightly more space in that, as you can see. I don't know if it's because the leather's different, it just gives a bit more space. Mine obviously has been used and it's probably stretched out a little bit more. Again, I would have no difficulty putting my sunglasses across that. So this is how it's sitting in your bag, and that is it, full and locked. Again, full leather bag, you're going to feel that. So it's not, although it's a mini bag, it's not that it's going to feel like nothing on your shoulder. One of the key differences between the Chanel Classic Mini and the reissue is the 4 grommets. In this bag you can see the 4 holes at the top, which are the grommets. The chain goes through those to easily go on your shoulder. So whereas we were looking at the classic mini before and looking where you would tie it or clip it if you wanted it to be shortened, this one just does it for you. And I love that about this design. I love the option to just double this one up and put it on your shoulder. Now you can just as easily take this down and wear this crossbody, and it sits around about the same position on me as what the actual rectangle mini does, but it's so easy if you want to double it up and use it on your shoulder because of the 4 grommets. Another key difference between the reissue and the traditional mini are the chains. So the chain on the traditional mini is the leather and the chain through it, the same as the classic flap. The chain on the reissue are these chains, which I think are very decorative. I really like those chains. I think when these are worn crossbody, they look lovely. Sitting across you, I think they're almost jewellery-like. These chains are meant to be inspired by Coco Chanel's time in an orphanage, and these are meant to be from the bars that she would have seen on the windows, and that's meant to be what has inspired this design that goes on these chains. I personally really like them. I think the reissue is a fabulous bag. I would buy the mini reissue in many more colours. There is a teal green that I've been after for quite some time. There was a magenta brought out very, very recently, and if I didn't have the amount of magenta bags that I have and had bought the other things I've bought, I would have bought it, even though it's nearly exactly the same as the Chanel mini and the lambskin that I showed you. But it was a fabulous colour, and one thing that you quite often get in the mini reissue is gold hardware. And the gold hardware against those type of strong jewelled tealed colours looks absolutely fabulous in my opinion. Another difference if you're looking to choose between one of these is these will generally be calfskin or lambskin. So whenever you have the caviar in the mini rectangle version or the square, I have never seen a caviar in a mini reissue. This one is calfskin, and the one behind here is also calfskin, although that's metallic and obviously coated. This one is obviously also made to look like croc, and it has all of this design across it, but they come quite often in calfskin or lambskin, but it's in a coated, treated calfskin or leather that I have not seen the same problems with as I have on the lambskin mini, which is a lambskin untreated the way a classic flap would sit. Even this one, which is the iridescent, the metallic, I've had a lot of questions on the wear on that. There's still no signs of wear on that. There's no cracking, there's no peeling. And this one, which is also treated, there's no cracking or peeling on this as well. I think these reissues are fab. They're definitely a really good option if you're looking for a mini bag. And one of the things about the reissue is you may find a mini reissue on the resale market at a much better price than you will a traditional mini, because these are slightly less popular and slightly less sought after. If you want the quiet trend, it's going to work a little bit better than one of those, but ultimately follow your heart. If you're dead set on the traditional mini, go for that, because this won't scratch the itch. I just think it's a really good option, and I wanted to compare them if you're looking for one of these bags, so as you consider what will work best for you. You do need to know as well that when this arrives, because when this one arrived, and I bought this one in the boutique, but I didn't realise just how much they sit like this. They come like this. You can still see this one hasn't had as much use. So they come with this point at the bottom, and they come like squished like that. And it sits like this. I thought there was something wrong with it because I didn't know that when I bought it, but that's how the mini reissues come. So just be aware of that if you're buying one. And you can see in this version, it has the very shiny gold chains and the shiny gold clasp. And it's a stunning bag. Really think these are a good option to consider if you're looking at one of these minis. Next option is a seasonal mini bag. And this one is the Coco Crush, which they are releasing season on season. So this is becoming quite readily available, and it's coming in some fabulous options. They've done this in velvet, they've done it in denim, they've obviously done it in leathers, fabulous colours. There's been really good options of this. And what this is, it's a seasonal version almost of the traditional classic flap, but you can tell the difference, and that's one thing you need to know if you're looking at these. This is a seasonal bag, so it's slightly less expensive than what this would be. But even if we take this against the lambskin, because we're talking about buying from the boutique, this bag feels more substantial, feels better made, feels that little bit superior to this one. This is very soft, although that's obviously a feature of the leather, but it just feels that little bit maybe less well made than the traditional mini, so that's something to be aware of, although the price will be slightly better. It does mean that you have the option to get it at a better price. As I said, they're coming out with some fabulous versions. This is a lambskin, but it's like I was saying with the reissue, it is a treated crumpled lambskin, so you don't see the signs of wear just as easily on this because it's not the smooth leather. I do think this one has worn slightly less well than the others. I think it's more noticeably worn. Now, it does get quite a lot of use from me because I absolutely love the colour, but I think there is a general colour transfer here that you can see, and it just feels maybe a little bit flatter from being worn. If I kind of hold it this way, can you see what almost looks like a dirty edge? And I think that's colour transfer. And the leather in general in this, I just don't think has held up as well as the others. I think this, you can just feel, and seems like this is just more worn than the others, and maybe that's just reflecting the seasonal bags not maybe being quite the same standard as the classics. It does have the same layout inside in that it has, and you will see my rubbish coming out of mine because I must have been using it recently, but it has one open space. It then has the slit pocket on the back, and it then has the zip pocket as well, much like the traditional mini and the reissue. It is comparable in what it fits, and I will show you that. It maybe comes up very slightly shorter if you put them side by side to the traditional mini. You can see that's very slightly shorter, but I'll put the same items in to let you see if it fits the same. This just feels different. Like, I can feel the wear on this, if that makes sense. I can feel that the leather has been touched a lot, held a lot. I can feel the difference, I suppose. Also, the chain is a lot thinner. So, although that's a good thing when it comes to weight, but if you look at the chain on the traditional with the leather through it and the chain, and then you compare it to this one is a lot thinner and feels a lot less substantial than what the traditional one does. Quite often that is the case with Chanel seasonal bags. You will feel the difference. This has an antique gold turn lock on it. A lot of them do. And what it also has as the Coco Crush is this little ball. Now, the good thing about this little ball is you push in the CC here and you pull this down and you can make your chain adjustable. So you can change the length of it. You will have this hanging down, doesn't come off, but you can change the length and easily put it under your shoulder and play with this as you walk. I've obviously never done that. That would annoy me, to be honest. So what this is meant to do is give you the option of making this shorter, but this would annoy me hanging down. I suppose if you need it slightly shorter to suit you crossbody or to suit you on the shoulder and you're not having a huge amount of the chain hanging down, maybe it wouldn't be such a big deal. But for me, I don't really like it hanging down through the bag. Maybe if it was only like this amount and you were changing it very slightly to make it suit you, but I've always worn it on its full length like this, so as there's no chain hanging and you just have the little ball as decoration. This is where it sits on me, sits at a very good length. This is probably one of my most used bags. I love the colour of it. I love the antique gold hardware against it. I love that the bag itself is quite light, but this little ball adds weight. This is deceptive. I have went out for days with things in this, not very much, and thought I'm going to be fine, and my shoulder has been aching by the end of the night because this little ball adds to what you're carrying about with you. But it is a really good option. Just know that there is a slight difference to it. It is a better price point, but you're going to feel that difference in the price point. Now if we put our same items in here, if we start with the phone, and then we have the Recto Verso in, 4-ring key holder. The one thing about this is it's very soft, the leather, so it's going to be more malleable than what the traditional one is. You can feel how soft it is to move. The same items are fitting in. There's just maybe less space, but as I say, this is so soft, it will move. I can close that feels quite full, but it fits everything the other ones did in, so it does give you the option of the same type of bag. That's heavy, you're definitely going to feel that. But it gives you the option of the same type of bag at a better price point. So that is a guide for you to the Chanel minis, hopefully the ultimate guide you would need if you're making a decision. We've looked at the classic versus the chevron versus the mini reissue versus the coco crush, the caviar versus the lambskin, the square versus the rectangle, the quilting versus the chevron, all of the options that you would need to have a look at and consider, and hopefully this will help you make a decision if you're looking at which one is best for you. If this has been in any way helpful for you, please do consider giving it a thumbs up. Please do consider subscribing if you haven't yet, and if you're not done with me yet, I'm going to leave another video for you on the screen. Thank you so much for being here, thank you for watching me, please take care, and I will see you again in the next one.